only a few weeks left in summer break, Chicago Public Schools announced they are going to lay off more than 400 teachers.
We have everything on the table, and what's driving the decision that we will ultimately come to students first.
$150 million allocated for migrants. While just this past week, Chicago announced that they have a $734 million education budget deficit.
And just like that, we are back. Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, this is wild. So Chicago just stays in trouble, right? So what would it be? Would we have Mayoral Monday if we didn't show some kind of incompetence in Chicago? Come on. Education is such a dicey topic. And as a former classroom teacher, as well as a supporter of private education, I fully get it. I understand what the tussle is. I understand where the tension is. But this is ridiculous what Chicago has done. Now, mind you, Chicago has some of the worst schools in Illinois, hands down. I actually have a video. I'll probably leave it up here. I did a review of the top 25 worst schools in Illinois, and like 15 of them are in Chicago. It's something crazy. Anyway, I'm gonna leave the link for y'all. Check it out for sure. But let's look at this video. I want to hear what you're thinking about it. So jump into the comments. Give me your 2 cents. Let's go.
Hundreds of CPS employees will now have to look for new jobs. The district is laying off more than 1,400 workers, including 432 teachers, 132 special ed teachers, 311 paraprofessionals, people like teacher's assistants or tech coordinators, 33 security officers being laid off, and nearly 700 special ed classroom assistants. Now, we spoke with a CPS mom tonight who has 2 kids who heavily rely on those assistants.
I'm worried, I'm angry, but it would be devastating to see them not have these supports, not only from a developmental and an academic standpoint, but I fear that medically speaking, that they will be in danger.
You can understand those fears because both of her boys have autism. They also have life-threatening medical issues that need to be constantly monitored.
We have everything on the table, and what's driving the decision that we will ultimately come to students.
Okay. Look, I have family members who work in higher offices of education. It is a sticky wicket because what I found out is a lot of the time, as you'll have very large bureaucratic machines that have no dealings whatsoever with what goes on in the classroom. And sad to say, a lot of this shenanigan that's going on here has nothing to do with it. There's a lot of bureaucracy that's going to keep getting fed while those classroom teachers are going to be removed. They're not going to get rid of the 13 assistants to this person. They're not going to get rid of all these other just fluff that's in the bureaucracy. They're going to cut teachers. They're going to cut security guards. Y'all don't need security guards in Chicago. Come on, man. So this is just interesting. And her name is Macaline King. Okay, Macaline.
First.
CPS insists the cuts are not connected to the deficit. School leaders say it's all part of the annual budget that shifts staff according to school needs.
Still, it's a big number.
It is indeed.
And they still have the work of the budget to do as well, right?
They got a lot of work to do, and as always, parents are concerned as well. They should be.
Yeah.
This is the place where we need you.
Asking parents, students, and CPS staff
My school is a small magnet school.
for their ideas to fix the looming $734 million budget shortfall.
The money is there, so we need to tap into it. But
A listening session where they didn't hold back the feedback.
I had to learn how to navigate my voice and speak up when it's something that I need.
Some participants surprised by what they heard.
I knew that we were in a financial deficit. I just had no idea how big that number actually was. So that was kind of alarming to hear.
District leaders say pension obligations, building maintenance, and services for students with disabilities are among the factors driving the deficit, giving some general money-making ideas for participants, like exploring TIFs, cuts to staff or programs, renegotiating contracts or furloughs and loans.
Okay, so if you're not familiar, TIFs, I forgot the actual acronym, but they move employees around based upon where there's a need. So maybe your building might have had 100 staff people, but the building 3 miles over, they might only had 85, and they really need 100. So your building, if your building only needs 75 people, they might tip some people, or they might say, hey, in this community, we don't need this many teachers, hence we're going to do some layoffs. Cuts of staffs and programs, we already know that. Renegotiating the contracts, look, we paying you too much. Furloughs, those are the worst. Furloughs are the worst. Where you take it could be every Friday, there's no school every Friday. And that'll cut down the budget because then you don't have to pay the teachers, you don't have to keep the lights on, don't have to pay the lunch lady, all that kind of stuff like that. Those are the worst. Oh my gosh. And taking out a loan is no, furloughs are pretty bad. Taking out a loan to pay your bills is actually worse. So this is terrible management. This is a clear sign of horrible, dare I say, deplorable management. This horrible leadership. Just admit it.
But the ideas came from all angles.
Like, why are they just sitting there? Like, why don't CPS think about doing something with those buildings? That's money.
Nothing is mentioned about these marijuana shops popping up.
A growing chorus of suggestions, district leaders tasked now with turning them into one harmonious budget.
It's just part of their annual staffing process. Totally normal to gut schools mid-July with a $734 million deficit hanging over their heads. And I know what you're thinking, and before you ask, I'm going to go ahead and clear that up. No, this is definitely not tied to the city's ballooning social services costs or the fact that they've spent over $300 million in the last year alone sheltering and caring for non-citizens. That's compassion, not budgeting, so you can get that dumbass idea out of your head right now. So sleep easy, Chicago. You may not have enough teachers or special ed staff this fall, but at least your city's priorities are as clear as its crime stat.
The education system in Chicago is going bankrupt, with them almost laying off 1,500 educational staff members. Now, currently, they are in a deficit of $734 million, and that's just within the education system itself. The state is $1.2 billion in debt. Now, one of the interesting things is the Chicago education system overall is ranked number 34 in the United States. So education is not that great. You're laying off teachers and people that work at the schools, and somehow you expect your state to get better. You expect to say that you actually care about your constituents. Now, 29% of the individuals that live in Chicago are Black, and there's another 29% of the individuals that live in Chicago are Latino. And I know that when Mayor Brandon Johnson stepped into office, he basically said he was going to take care of all the minorities and cater to them, and he wanted to make, their state a better state for them. But if you look at the evidence, he's basically destroying his state, because now they're bankrupt and you can't educate the children and the high schoolers and all that stuff. You can't give them the best. But let me tell you who is thriving in Chicago. Okay, so you have $734 million deficit in the educational system, but yet you gave over $321 million to illegal immigrants. And I don't think that's an accurate number, because there's housing, there's the extra money you were giving them a month, and they say that some of that money went to kitchens, some of it went to social services, and some of it went to healthcare solutions. Bottom line is that Mayor Brandon Johnson doesn't care about his constituents. He doesn't care about his minorities. He doesn't care about his people. He cares about illegal immigrants, because he knows that as long as he continues to put those people first, hopefully he'll be able to stay in office. I think that's garbage. I think it's atrocious. And I think it's sad that you're going to sit there and say that you're going to take care of minorities when clearly you do not care.
With only a few weeks left in summer break, Chicago Public Schools announced they are going to lay off more than 400 teachers. These cuts are being made because of a $734,000 budget shortfall, and that generally they would have preferred to have these cuts happen in June, but because of budget processing delays, they had to wait and make these cuts now. To add insult to injury, Chicago Public Schools also put out a statement saying that they will be hosting job fairs to help workers find jobs elsewhere. I don't know about you, but if I was still a teacher in Chicago Public Schools, I would quickly be coming up with my exit strategy, because in 2024, they also laid off more than 1,400 employees. So this is the second year in a row in which they've done this.
In April, Chicago allocated...
Wait, and you got to think about that. If they laid off 1,424 and now 1,400 again, that's almost, let's just do quick math, that's 3,000 teachers or education specialists. And usually it's someone in a building, in one of the classrooms or a school building. Is rarely are they cutting the bureaucracy in central office, the bureaucracy downtown. They're not. It's usually in the classrooms, usually in the school proper. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Year in a row in which they've done this.
In April, Chicago allocated $150 million for migrant aid, housing, food vouchers, transportation vouchers, rental assistance, legal aid, medical care, including the costs if an immigrant wants to move out of Chicago. They would cover that as well, and they call it out-migration. $150 million allocated for migrants. While just this past week, Chicago announced that they have a $734 million education budget deficit. They will be laying off 1,458 employees, 432 teachers, and 677 special education assistants. Chicago's literacy rate is 31%, as in 1 in 3 children can read. And the math proficiency is 19%. If you're a parent in Chicago, this is very important to put it in perspective. Your children, especially if they are special needs, they just got less tools and less support because of a budget deficit. But if you would be an illegal immigrant in Chicago, you would have housing assistance, legal assistance, food assistance, transportation assistance, medical care assistance, all paid by Chicago people. So Chicago doesn't have a money problem, Chicago has a money managing problem. And this is the best example of what happens when you have radical progressives in office. Chicago, best example, not even New York City.
I bet the superintendent gets a raise. That's messed up. Oh my gosh. So no management cuts? Isn't that the way it always goes? That's what I'm saying. No bureaucracy cut. There'll be no trimming of the fat. Just waiting to hear CNN explain how this is Trump's fault. Weird, because did they not just say there was a teacher shortage? That's how they're doing away with the shortage. So you get rid of the shortage by getting rid of the people, then you don't have a shortage. That is so absolutely crazy. And I don't know what to say, man. Chicago is in some trouble. Chicago is in cash money trouble, literally and figuratively. They're in cash money trouble. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. I really want to hear what you have to say about it. I'm gonna leave the link to that video that I did. It'll be up on the screen somewhere or in the description. I did earlier about just the literacy rates and the school performance rates of Chicago's public school system, because it is pretty bad. So this is not the beginning. This is not the middle of this train wreck. I don't know where they are in the train wreck, but It's been going on for a while. So let me know what you think down in the comments below. I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for rocking with us. And until next time, everybody, grace and peace.